Hey guys, KingRazzel here, and today we're going to be talking about Sony's E3 2016 press conference. I'm going to be giving you guys a recap of everything that was announced, as well as my thoughts on it. In the background right now, you can see Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which was announced during the conference, and I'll be talking a little bit about that whenever I get to that section of the conference. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into this. The first thing that was announced was God of War. Now, the conference started out, and there was live music from a live orchestra, and then they started into a trailer, and it starts with a boy. He's like, I think he has a knife. He's cutting something or something like that, and you can hear this gruff voice call him in the house and talk about hunting. And then Kratos steps out of the shadows. What we assume is Kratos. I'll talk about that here in a second. But he has a beard. He's still got all the markings of the Spartans, or like the red squiggles. I don't know what they're for exactly, but I think they're the blood or something, or the ashes. I don't remember. But anyways, yeah, it's like Kratos, except for he has a beard. He has a little bit different outfit as well. He has like furs on instead of just like that loincloth or whatever. But yeah, Kratos also has an axe this time around. Instead of the blades of Sparta, I can't remember what their names are either. I'm drawing a blank on everything God of War right now. But he has an axe this time around, and you do see some combat. It is a gameplay trailer. You see some combat in it. The first thing is like little like minion monsters come out, and you fight them, and he like hacks through them, and he throws his axe at one of them. It sticks him to a wall, and then it's like a self-retrieving axe. It's awesome. But whenever he does throw the axe, he also does some fisticuffs. He also throws some fisticuffs. He gets in there hand-to-hand combat, which was also awesome. But yeah, and then you see a troll, which the troll is just a big giant monster. The boss battle looks really cool. You were fighting on like this ice, like an ice rink, and they kept slamming on the ice. I don't know if that's like dynamic, that it could actually break and it could actually kill you, but it was really cool. And also, the troll says Valhalla, so I'm assuming that this is going to be like Norse mythology, and I'm kind of wondering if this is even Kratos, because I don't know how far away these cultures are. I don't know like time periods. I'm not a big history buff really. I'm not sure about the time periods, and also Kratos, the boy that's in the trailer, he says father, so Kratos is his son, if this is even Kratos. But he says father, so Kratos is his son, and then they kill a deer. That's like kind of the big climax. And then after they kill the deer, a dragon flies over. It's a fucking crazy trailer. It's a much more emotional story, by the way. That's something that I really noticed. A much more emotional story. Kratos and his son obviously connecting through this experience. I'm assuming that their mother is dead, because they talk about his mother showing him the ropes of hunting. I'm not really... Obviously, they don't go that in-depth into the story, but we do know that this boy is Kratos, quote-unquote, Kratos' son. And yeah, the gameplay looks fucking incredible. It was amazing. It was a great way for them to kick off the conference, and it really got me hyped for what was to come. The next thing that they talked about was Days Gone, and actually they really didn't talk about. Most of these things, they just showed the trailer, and they didn't have any kind of conversation about. They came out at the head of it to kind of just say that they were going to show a bunch of trailers, and that's pretty much what they did. The only person that even came out on the stage that No, there were two. Sean Layden, I think is his name. He came out on the stage. He was like the main guy talking about it. But anyways, the next game that they showed off was Days Gone, and we got a cinematic trailer for it. The game is post-apocalyptic, and there's a bunch of motorcycles in it. That's all the trailer really showed off. The main guy's talking, and you can see his wife or girlfriend's on the back of his motorcycle, and he misses her, so I'm assuming she's dead, or maybe she's lost somewhere out in the world. He's a bounty hunter. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Days Gone at the end of this, because it was actually... They showed the cinematic trailer, and then at the end of this conference, they also showed gameplay for this game. The gameplay is pretty cool. But, yeah, they showed that, and then the next thing they talked about was Last Guardian. Last Guardian, obviously announced last year at E3. But this time, they showed off a cinematic trailer for it. They showed off some of the enemies in the game. And, yeah, it was pretty cool. They showed off an evil version of your companion, I guess. Either that or your companion turned evil for some reason. Not really sure what was going on right there. But, yeah, it was a cool trailer. And they also announced a release date for it, which is October 25th, 2016. There's a bunch of games. There's a ton of stuff coming out for Sony in October. But, yeah, they announced that. They announced the release date, and they showed off a little bit of that game. And the next thing they showed was Horizon Zero Dawn. and we actually got a lot of like gameplay information about this one. So they showed off a demo for it. They showed off some new enemies for the game. There was these crab things in particular, and then there was this enemy they were calling a demon, which really didn't resemble an animal. It didn't resemble an animal that I can think of. It was kind of like, it had a whip. I don't know. It was cool. But yeah. And then they showed off like this scanning thing where you can scan for enemies and you can see kind of what their weakness is. She did that with both the enemies. They also showed like crafting, I guess. It was really a quick thing. It wasn't like real. She didn't go to somewhere specific and craft these things, but she crafted like 2 explosive bombs. I'm assuming that's the crafting system. Quick and easy, I guess. And they also showed the game. So like a guy came by, or he was running from one of the like dinosaur robot monsters. He was running by one of those, and he mentioned to what's her name? Aloy, I think. Aloy. He mentioned to Aloy that there was a demon in the nearby town that had killed pretty much everybody in the town, and he was the last survivor, I guess. And I'm wondering if this was a side quest, because this kind of reminded me of Skyrim whenever they were doing this. It kind of reminded me of Skyrim, how like there's people you meet on the open road that give you side quests, and then you go to their town, and then you kind of like save their town. That's what this reminded me of. But anyways, you talk to that guy, and it has branching dialogue. It kind of reminded me in that aspect of Mass Effect. So that was also pretty cool. They had like 3 different things: farewell, demon with a question mark, because he was talking about a demon. I don't remember the other one. I think it was any survivors or something like that. But yeah, that was pretty cool. They also showed robot animal hacking, which was interesting. So you trapped this thing. I don't remember what it was called. It was like a deer sort of, but you trapped this deer thing, and then you stuck your staff into his head, and it kind of like changed his demeanor, I guess. It made him an ally. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I wonder if you can do that with more enemies, or if that's just kind of that thing, because he did turn into a mount. And then eventually, whenever we got to the village and she was fighting the demon, we saw a lot of like dodging. We saw a lot of bow action, but they showed mounted combat, which was also pretty cool. You shoot your bow off of the deer robot. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, you do that, and again, this looked freaking amazing. I was really excited about this as well. I initially didn't really want to see that much Horizon Zero Dawn, because we'd already seen quite a bit of it, but this showed off a lot of new things, so that was pretty interesting as well. The next thing that they talked about was Detroit Becoming Human, and they showed off another trailer for this one. It had an android named Connor, and this android is a detective. The whole story was pretty much a cinematic trailer, but there were also kind of like gameplay things in it. But it's a very story-driven game. I believe it's by the same developers who made Beyond Two Souls, if you guys are familiar with that game. Also another story-driven game, I believe. I never played it, but that's what I hear. And it was just kind of like a scenario of what was happening. This guy's a detective. He's coming in to talk this android down from killing people, because he's been killing people. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what was going on, but that's kind of what it seemed like. But yeah, he came in, and then he was holding this girl over a ledge. And then you had all these different like dialogue options. I'm not sure how you unlock the dialogue options though. It's confusing. It's a concept that I'd have to kind of like play around with, because I'm not that familiar with this. It seems like there's a ton of different ways this story could have ended, but I don't know how you lead up to that. Perhaps different clues. I don't know. It was a pretty interesting game. I'd like to see more on it, and it's definitely one that I'd be interested in the future. The next thing that they showed was fucking yes. If you guys watch my top 10 E3 things, this was right at the fucking top. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. So they announced first that it was going to be a full PSVR experience, and if you guys see the background, the gameplay, you can definitely understand why. And it's definitely much more horror related than the past Resident Evil games have been, especially 5 and 6. It's definitely more horror related. The character is not any of the characters that we're familiar with. His name is actually Clancy, at least that you play in the demo that they released. There's a playable demo with Plus out right now. I don't think they announced a time frame for it. I don't know if it's a time thing or if it's always going to be up forever, but that was on there. The game releases January 24th, 2017, so it's actually coming out pretty soon. I speculated that it would actually come out this year, because this year is Resident Evil's 20th anniversary, but apparently it's coming out the month after this year for some reason. But yeah, it looks it looked really good in the trailer, and then you play the demo, which is also very good. It's very reminiscent of PT in a lot of ways, and it brings up the question for me personally if it even feels like a Resident Evil game, because it is Resident Evil 7, but in the demo you don't have a gun. It's very, you're not really running from enemies or anything like that. It's kind of a set piece. You're kind of going through this. There's jump scares and stuff like that. You can see it in the background right now, but you don't have any weapons. It's just, it's not third person. It's first person experience. It doesn't really feel like a Resident Evil game to me. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, but it didn't really feel like a Resident Evil game to me personally. I don't know. It's just something I noticed as a Resident Evil fan. It feels more maybe Silent Hill, I guess. Silent Hill, PT, Silent Hills. I don't know. It was cool. I enjoyed it. I encourage you guys to go do it and play the demo if you guys have not. It's free, so go check it out. The next thing that they talked about was PlayStation VR. Now, VR is coming out, and it's actually, they announced a release date, and they announced the price point, even though the price point I think was already out. I think they've already taken pre-orders for it, I believe. But yeah, they announced a release date, which is October 13th, 2016. So another thing releasing in October, and that obviously means there's going to be a bunch of release games or like launch titles for it. But they said there's going to be 50 games from launch to the end of the year. So 50 games out by the end of this year for VR. And then they showed off a few different games that are coming for it. The first one they showed off was Farpoint. Farpoint, it's obviously a VR game, and it looks like it's on a desert planet with alien life on it. It's a shooter, I believe. It was a shooter, and it was just bunches of sand and stuff. I don't know. It kind of reminded me of, if you guys watched, I can't remember what year it was, but one of the E3s for Microsoft, Halo 5's like teaser was Master Chief in the desert. It kind of reminded me of that for whatever reason, but it showed off like an alien. I think it was an alien crab or something like that. I don't remember. It was just a giant alien monster that you were fighting. But, you know, it looks cool. Pretty interesting. And then the next thing they showed off for VR was Star Wars Battlefront, and they showed off an X-Wing VR mission, like space combat. It was pretty interesting as well. I'm personally not that big a fan of like flying games, stuff like that, but it looked pretty interesting, especially if you're into Star Wars, if you're into X-Wings and stuff like that. The next thing they showed off was Batman Arkham VR. Now, they showed this off. They announced the release date was October 2016. It's going to be exclusive to the PlayStation VR, I guess. And it didn't have any gameplay with it. Coming out that soon, I would have thought it would have had gameplay with it. Maybe we'll see some, like, through PlayStation's, I don't know what they actually call it. I'm thinking of, like, Nintendo Treehouse, where they show off different games. They have, like, expos on different games. But I don't know what Sony calls it. But anyways, yeah, no gameplay for it. They did show off a cinematic trailer. The trailer was basically just Joker talking about you wearing the cowl of Batman. So obviously you're going to be in Batman's shoes when you're playing this game. Which brings up the question of why Joker is talking, considering he died in Arkham City, and in Arkham Knight he's still dead. So when would this game exactly take place? I'm not exactly sure about that. But, you know, just something I thought was interesting. And yeah, definitely hyped for that game. If I can raise the funds to get VR, I'll definitely be getting that game in October if it does come out, because I can see that one getting pushed back. But anyways, the next one was Final Fantasy 15. They had a gameplay trailer which showed off different gameplay aspects of it. They had the Titan fight from Microsoft's conference in it, or just like little snippets of it. It was just like cuts in and out of different gameplay sections. But I thought that was pretty interesting that they had that in there. But yeah, they just showed off different activities, riding like a chicken thing. I'm not very familiar with Final Fantasy. I do plan on getting this one though, because it does look pretty cool. And they also, it releases on September 30th, 2016. And they also showed off PlayStation VR compatibility with it. They said you'll be playing as Prompto, I think his name was, in VR. And he has a gun. You see him like fighting a boss battle or something like that, where he's shooting off his gun. It looked pretty interesting. You know, it doesn't really seem like a very VR game, but if you're using a gun, it's like just a first-person shooter in VR. It would be cooler if you had like the sword and you were swinging that around. But anyways, yeah, that was pretty interesting. The next thing they showed off was Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Very spacey looking, very much in space. They showed you in like a bunker or in like a spaceship bunker. And then they shoot you out, and you're out there like Star Wars, basically shooting around all these different spaceships flying around. I don't know. And then they showed off like in space combat where you personally are out in the space, you're out in space in like an astronaut suit. You're shooting stuff. There's like a grappling hook mechanic where it pulls you towards stuff, can pull stuff towards you, like enemies and stuff like that. It looked all right. I'm not a big fan of the setting, really. I know the launch trailer or the announcement trailer, was it? I don't know. Is like the worst or the most disliked gaming video on YouTube, I think is the title for it, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, take that as you will. It's out November 4th, 2016. Trailer looked okay, or the gameplay for it looked okay. I'll probably end up getting it just for Modern Warfare 4, but or Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, which was the next thing they showed off. They showed off a cinematic trailer for it. Just a bunch of the campaign stuff, and then they said the campaign plus 10 multiplayer maps, which if you already looked at the stuff, you'd already know that was the deal. And if you pre-order Infinite Warfare, you'll get the Modern Warfare campaign 30 days early. Decent deal, I guess. I don't know. I'm not personally going to be playing it for the campaign. I'm going to be playing it for the multiplayer of it. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. The next thing they showed off, they had some really cool, like, effects. It was in, like, a theater. It was a lot less, like, TVs and stuff like that. It was in an amphitheater, I think. I don't know. But anyways, the next thing they showed off was Crash Bandicoot. And, they announced that there's going to be 3 Crash Bandicoots getting fully remastered. And they said they're going to be from the ground up. So I don't know if that means they're going to be getting remastered from the ground up, like just visuals and stuff like that, or if they're going to be getting remastered like Ratchet and Clank did, where they just completely scrap what they had and then they just kind of rebuild it on a new engine. I don't know if that's what they meant. I'm not really sure, because then I would think they would have just gone with Crash Bandicoot, just completely redid that. But I don't know. They announced 3 remasters: Crash Bandicoot, Crash 2, and Crash Warped. And they said they're going to be from the ground up. And then they also announced that Crash would be coming to Skylanders Imaginators. I don't know. Imagineers, I think it was. But yeah, they announced that. And then they showed off a little bit of Skylanders. And in the Skylanders game, you can apparently create your own Skylander, which is pretty interesting if you're into Skylanders. The next thing they showed off was Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens. Not really feeling this. It was basically just the story of the movie. I mean, that's pretty much all they showed. They didn't even show any gameplay for it. It was just like story aspects. Obviously, it's gonna have the signature Lego humor. If you guys have ever played any of the Lego games, it's obviously gonna have that signature humor in it, and it pretty much just follows the story of that game or of that movie. And they said there's a demo available right now. The game actually launches in 2 weeks, so if you want to go ahead and check out the game before you can actually play it, then, it's right there. Now, the next thing, there's 3 more things coming up. The next thing is Death Stranding, I guess is what it's called. It's kind of a weird title to me personally, but they had Hideo Kojima come out. And Hideo Kojima, he's the guy behind Metal Gear Solid. He left the studio Konami, and they were having issues there. They kind of split up. And now this is his new game with his new studio. And the trailer was freaking awesome. I loved it. They had Daryl from The Walking Dead again. If you guys, like the whole Silent Hills debacle, if you guys saw that, if you guys kept up with that, he was in that game. He couldn't be in that game because the Konami and Kojima split. Now they're working together again, which is awesome. And it's for a different game. It's not Silent Hills, obviously, but I'm not sure what kind of game it even is. It was just a trailer. The trailer was really weird. It had Daryl lying naked on the beach with a bunch of handprints around him, a bunch of handprints on him. He picked up a baby, and then the baby was gone, and his hands were black. And there was a ton of dead fish and dead, just sea life all around him. And then up in the air, there were 5, flying humans. I don't have any idea what the game is about, but the trailer was freaking awesome. I loved it. I'm really looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to knowing what the game is exactly, but it was really cool. I liked it a lot, and I'm excited for that game already. I haven't even seen anything on it, except for that trailer. But the next thing they showed off was Spider-Man. Now, if you guys have like heard any of the rumors. Spider-Man was heavily rumored, and yeah, they showed it off. And it's being made by Insomniac Games. I'm pretty sure I heard it was going to be made by Sucker Punch Games, or that's what the rumor was. But it's going to be made by Insomniac Games, apparently. Insomniac being the studio behind, like, Resistance and Sunset Overdrive, what's Ratchet and Clank. I don't know why I was drawing a blank on that. But yeah, they're the studio behind that. I would have rather seen Sucker Punch, because Sucker Punch would have been, like, Infamous. Sucker Punch is made Infamous, so they got experience with superhero games, but I think that Insomniac will do a very good job with it. But anyways, the gameplay, it was like a gameplay trailer. It showed off some gameplay things. I really like the costume that he was in, by the way. I'm not sure what costume that is. I think that might be just one for the game, but it was a really cool costume. It had like a white spider symbol on it. I don't know. I liked it. It might be from newer comics that I just haven't seen, but I'm a fan of the costume, if nothing else. But the gameplay kind of just looked like typical Spider-Man to me. There wasn't anything in it that got me overly excited about it. Just him swinging around the city, doing different Spider-Man things, if you know what that means. But yeah, it was cool. I liked it. I'm definitely be getting that game whenever it comes out, because I'm a big Spider-Man fan. But yeah, pretty interested in that. The last thing that they showed off was Days Gone again, like I said. So Days Gone, it's the game with the motorcycle and the cinematic trailer from earlier that I was talking about. And they showed off gameplay for it. The gameplay was cool. It was, I don't know, it's a post-apocalyptic game, and you go into, you're a bounty hunter, I guess. You're a bounty hunter, you get on your motorcycle, you're hunting some target or something like that, you drive down to this, like, scrapyard, and then you're going around the scrapyard looking for this guy, and then you run into these mutants, I think is what he called them. I didn't really hear him very well, but I'm pretty sure he called them mutants. And they're basically like zombies that are fast. So it's kind of like a zombie open world game. I'm assuming it's just a giant open world game, and there's zombies in it, because these things, there is a fucking ton of zombies on screen at one point. And he kills every single one of them, at least that are chasing him, and it's pretty crazy. He's just like firing into a literal swarm. I encourage you to watch the trailer, because it's just a literal swarm of zombies chasing him, and he mows them all down. And yeah, it was pretty interesting. I liked it. I'd like to see a little bit more on what it's actually about, because I didn't get that good of a sense about it. All it really was him chasing this guy down and then getting overcome by these mutants or zombies and then running away. But it was pretty cool. Definitely interested in it. I'd like to see more on it. And that was all that was announced. That was all that was shown. I was really expecting PlayStation Neo to kind of like be talked about in some capacity, but they didn't. But yeah, my overall thoughts for the conference was it was freaking awesome. There were so many things announced that we didn't already know about, and that is what I look for in E3 press conferences. That is definitely what I look for, is surprises, and there were plenty in this conference. Let's go through it again, just to kind of recap my recap. But God of War, we didn't know about that. Days Gone, I'd never heard about that. You may have. I don't know. I'd never heard of that game. The Last Guardian, we knew about. Horizon Zero Dawn, we knew about. Detroit Becoming Human, we knew about, but I don't think we'd seen anything about it. At least I personally hadn't. Resident Evil 7, obviously fucking awesome. PlayStation VR, good to see. The games for VR, Farpoint, I didn't know anything about. It looks alright. Star Wars Battlefront, obviously already out. But Batman Arkham VR looks cool. Final Fantasy 15, we already knew about, but it looks cool. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Crash Bandicoot, didn't know anything about. Skylanders, I don't know if they announced it. I don't know anything about Skylanders. Lego Star Wars, we already knew about. Death Stranding, didn't know anything about. Spider-Man, didn't know anything about. So yeah, a ton of surprises in this conference. I really liked it. I was a huge fan of this conference. I'm sure this is going to be my favorite conference. Microsoft, like I said in my last video, I wasn't overly impressed with, but this one I was just very impressed with. There wasn't a dull moment for me personally, except maybe the Call of Duty thing, the Infinite Warfare, but yeah, I loved it. It kept me engaged throughout. I encourage you all to just go watch it. It's a lot of not talking about anything and just showing games, which is what I think E3 needs to be about. Just showing off the games that that we all want to see. And yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this. I was really impressed with it. I'll definitely be talking more about it in my recap of all this whenever E3's over and we finally have everything. But yeah, if you guys want to see my recap and thoughts on Microsoft's thing, then go to my channel, because I'm going to put an end card in this. Sorry. But yeah, I put that up, and then tomorrow, tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm pretty sure they have it in the morning. Nintendo has a press conference, or it's a Nintendo Direct, and they're pretty much just going to talk about Legend of Zelda, but I'm still going to like recap it and tell you guys what happened in it. There's going to be a lot of information about Legend of Zelda. There may be a few other games. I'm not sure what's in it exactly. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. This is probably going to be the best press conference for me personally. Unless Nintendo just comes out and pulls something crazy out. I'm not expecting to love that one, because I was really hoping to see the NX in that one, and they're not going to talk about the NX at all. So that was kind of downer for me. But yeah, we'll see how they do tomorrow. I don't want to talk that much about it and kind of put it down before it's even happened. But yeah, that was an awesome press conference. I definitely encourage you guys to go watch it. And yeah, thank you all for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed Resident Evil 7 in the background, and I hope to see you all in the next video.